G'day, Michael here. I've developed a new template system for installing these guys, and of course their counterparts in crime, the strikers. Now I show you this is one I don't have a template for, but what I do have a template for is the cavity slider strike and the passage strike. Okay. For some reason or other, commercial and domestic regular latches, passage latches, both have exactly the same, I'm going to call it footprint for want of a better word. Okay, but the strikers vary quite a bit. Here's the cavity slider, which is okay. Now the cavity latch, as you can see, it's got a little lug thing that grabs into the striker. There's a striker. So you can see you've got this business here, the capture for a sliding door. Now the template system that I've developed, I've done my best to make it like really fast to use and also easy to get precision. This is, I've given the kit a name, and the name is LTS 617. Now LTS stands for Latch Template System, very original, and 617 is June 2017, and you can see the CS, that simply denotes that it's the cavity striker. Okay, so that's that. There are a total of 4 templates, obviously each different latch type and each different striker for those latches. Now there's quite a few features that are packed in these templates to make it fast for you to apply. I guess I just basically have to step through them as quickly as I can. But you can see, for starters, there's these 2 screw holes. Now they're designed so if it doesn't matter what you're doing and you're going to paint and patch later, you can screw the template directly onto the location, do what you've got to do, unscrew it, and you're left with the 2 screw holes, which then can be patched and painted. But if you can't do that, you can use, you can see on the back here I've got lugs, and there's actually threaded bores down the side here that are designed to hold a clamping system. Okay, so there's 2 ways of using this. You can either just screw them directly on the part, which makes it very fast, or you can use a clamp system, which is a little slower, but it means you can work on surfaces that are finished and you don't want to damage by, clamps and screws and whatnot. Okay, to that end, the clamping mechanism, these are the parts that actually do the clamping. I've got these embedded O-rings in the surface, and the purpose of those is to gain a lot of traction without giving a lot of play to the clamp, in such a way that it holds firm even without damaging a sensitive material. Like you might have a pre-finished surface you don't want to damage, or a softish material you don't want to damage. If you were going to clamp with a hard clamp, you'd be risking damaging that surface. So that's in aid of minimising the pressure you require to get the necessary firmness. Now the template itself, which I haven't yet shown properly, is obviously designed to use a template guide on a router. That's where you've got a sleeve in the router base, and the cutter goes through that template guide. And the difference, the offset has to be 3mm for these templates to work. Okay. Now, in other words, the template guide, let's say it was 10mm, you'd have to have a 4mm cutter. If it was 16mm, you'd have to have a 10mm cutter. So there's a different diameter of 6mm, leaving a 3mm instep, or whatever you want to call it. Okay, so there's that. But to go with that template, there are 2 other components. Now, if you have just a router with a fixed base, you may want to just simply use the router for doing the pass that lets in the striker, or I'm going to say the faceplate of the latch. But if you've got a plunge router, you can actually use it for the latch hole, the pin hole. Now that's where this little insert comes in. Okay, so you change the depth on your plunge router, and then you can use it to actually machine out the latch hole. Okay. Now this guy actually has 2 functions. I mean, what you have, it provides basically a center point for the latch pin to the template. Now you can use it 2 ways. If you know where the center point is, you can screw this in using that 1 screw hole on that center, and then use it to guide where this gets placed. So you'd have this screwed to your jamb or your door or whatever it's going into, and then you'd slide this template on, and then you'd fix it, whether you're using the clamp or whether you're using the 2 screws. So it's a way of establishing the center if you know where the location is first. If you're going the other way around, where you're using the template to then decide where the latch is going to go, or the striker is going to go, you can have this fixed in place, and then use this put in after with a small drill bit. Just punch that little bit of a hole in the centre, and it gives you the centre point for the latch, and then you can use like a spade bit or a speed bore to actually drill out the latch hole. Okay, so this is basically a set. In this case, it's the cavity set. So cavity striker and cavity latch. I don't know if you can see that. Probably, yeah, vaguely. We have these 4 knobs, which obviously taps to work on these threaded rods. These threaded rods provide the mainstay of that clamping mechanism. And these guides that are relevant to each template, as well as our little insert to give us that secondary hole. Now what I've done with these threaded rods, now I've made them out of stainless steel. Now stainless steel is not that vital to me, but what is important is that the thread is cleanly cut. And these were the best finished threads I could find on an available threaded rod. And what I've done here is, obviously I've tied it up the end so they start to thread nicely, but on this other end here I've machined off a little bit of the thread, so you can use a cordless drill to grab them and wind them in, because obviously starting the thread and winding them in by hand takes quite a bit of time. So to speed that process up, I'll grab a cordless drill.